Hi, thanks for joining us. Today we are looking at the fourth of the four stained glass Willet windows that are in our two transepts, all of which have to do with events surrounding the birth of Jesus, and especially in terms of how our patron saint, St. Joseph, has a role to play in those events. And today we are going to be looking at this particular window, which is the Holy Family's flight into Egypt. And as we have been doing with our windows, we first of all want to look at in whose memory this window was given. And as you see, this is in loving memory of Ray Fabens, given by members of St. Joseph's Parish and Friends. Now, I do not know Ray Fabens. I could not find any information on this person, but we can surmise that she must have been a very special person if the members of the Parish and Friends were willing to donate a window in her memory. She, I can tell from our parish records, was married to Andrew, and they are on the original register of St. Joseph's Episcopal Church, transferring from St. Paul's in March of 1957. Ray died at the age of 76 on May the 14th, 1969. So her death would have been fresh in the memory of this church when this project was done in 1970. So this particular window, as you see, shows Mary and Joseph and the child Jesus. And this is the scripture quotation that we have from Matthew that pertains to this story. Matthew chapter 2, verses 13 to 15. Now after the Magi had left, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt, and remain there until I tell you, for Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him." Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother by night, and went to Egypt, and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what had been spoken by the Lord through the prophet. "Out of Egypt I have called my son." So as we see this depicted, one of the common, I think, misconceptions of this window that I especially hear the kids talk about when they see that is this particular part of the window, and they think that Joseph is holding a little umbrella, but that is not the case, because if we look closely, these actually, remember, they are going to Egypt, and these are stained glass depictions of pyramids of Egypt to give us the geographical location. What Joseph is actually holding, he is holding horizontally, and this is a staff. And as we go towards the left, we see at the end of that staff is a bag. What would they be holding in that bag? Well, many scripture scholars think that those gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh were given by the Magi because they were expensive gifts worth a lot of money, and they would have been easy for Mary and Joseph and the child Jesus to use as sort of barter to pay for things on their journey. So perhaps that is what is inside of that bag. But I think that depiction of Joseph carrying a stick with a sort of tied bag on the end of it might give us some other symbolism that we need to consider. They were refugees. How often in our society do we see someone we might describe as a hobo carrying a stick with a bag with their little belongings on the end of it? Maybe this is the artist's way of telling us the Holy Family themselves were refugees. How we choose in our society to treat refugees, perhaps we are treating the Holy Family in that way. As Jesus says, "Whatever you do to the least of my brothers and sisters, you do to me." Perhaps it will call us to reconsider a little bit of our own attitudes towards those who come to us from other places. The other thing that is interesting as we look at this particular depiction of what Joseph is carrying once again is this depiction of the way in which the Holy Family are relating to each other. As we look closer up, Mary is definitely staring down at her child. They're on the donkey, as we see sort of in the silver portion of the window. And there's this gaze that's going on between Mary and the baby. But look at Joseph. Joseph is looking back at them, and to me, he does not look very happy. Now, I think that this particular depiction of Joseph and Mary and the baby and the interchange between them, maybe we're supposed to learn something from this as well. This was not easy. The angel had appeared to Joseph in a dream. Joseph continues to do what he is called to do, but perhaps this particular emotion that he is expressing gives us some reality to that Holy Family. Families, as Dick Hardell, that great Lutheran pastor who taught us about the family ministry that we have here, the child in our hands, he always said, families are messy business. And maybe this depiction of Joseph at a moment when he was having a difficult time is good for us to know. Sometimes we are called to go to places that we do not really want to go in order to take care of families. Sound familiar? In this current situation we find ourselves, emotions can rage. We can get caught up in the wrong stuff and forget the big picture that we do what we are doing to protect others. I would imagine as Joseph turns his gaze backward and sees that incredible gaze of love that Mary has upon Jesus, his attitude probably would have transformed itself once again. Remember, feelings and emotions are pre-moral. They're neither right nor wrong. It's just a question of what we do with those feelings. As someone wisely said, it's not about the now that happens in our life that's important. It's the now what. I would imagine the now what for Joseph, as we know from what he did to continue to protect Mary and the baby Jesus, would tell us that he had another transformation, not letting those feelings be that which drove his actions. Our own Charles Milling has written some beautiful lyrics, and it is an opportunity for us to reflect upon those times when God calls us to go to the desert and rediscover ourselves.
Something drives me to the desert, something wild and something free, where the angels come to bless us, to the same place you made me. There was something pure within me I had lost on my way, where I'd go to claim it back again and embrace myself this day. Listen for the sound of innocence resonating pure and free. Call me inward to the center, looking who I'm made to be. I was made without a shadow. Now he lingers day and night. All regrets and strong resentments I unpack, Lord, in your light. Lord, restore me to the wondrous child, source untouched by jaded hands, permeating possibilities. Feel my heart beat once again, not fulfilling and affirming, blessing all within my path. While I'm living, make me whole again. I'm within you till the last. Life fulfilling and affirming, blessing all within my path. While I'm living, make me whole again. I'm within you till the last.
So while we are called to stay in this desert during this time, may we continue to allow God to make us whole again. As we are celebrating this Willet Window Wednesday and we talk about Joseph protecting the family, I'd like to end today by reflecting upon someone who protected his family and did a lot to watch over us with his life. We celebrate today the life of Erik Hvide, whom God called home to heaven today. Erik was one of the hugest supports to St. Joseph's Episcopal Church in my 19+ years here. Erik came to us in leadership at a time when our finances were in a bit of disarray and we needed to have someone who had the expertise, the time, and the willingness to work on our financial systems at St. Joseph's. And out of the blue, Erik came forward. And Erik worked tirelessly throughout his time as treasurer of this church to not only create better order for our financial systems, but also to be an incredible steward of our investment resources that we have at St. Joseph's. Erik died today, surrounded by his family and closest friends. And his two sons wrote a tribute sort of eulogy to Erik that they have shared with me, and I would like to share with our St. Joseph's family today. Johann Erik Hvide, born on September 5th, 1948, in Glen Cove, New York, son of Hans Johann and Elsa Mosse Hvide, husband of Betsy Frances Schmidt Hvide, father to Leif Erik and Johann Anders Hvide, grandfather to Magnus Johann, Hans Christopher, and Hakon Erik Hvide, passed away peacefully in his home surrounded by loved ones today, July 15th, 2020. He is predeceased by his parents and sister Elsa. Erik was a man who spent his life defying odds. He possessed the stubborn determination of a true Viking. At the age of 7, he was diagnosed with polio, and his doctors said that he would not survive, but he did. His doctors said that he would never get out of an iron lung, but he did. His doctors said that he would never get out of a wheelchair, but he did. Going on to become a varsity golfer for St. Andrew's School in Boca Raton, where he graduated in 1965. He went on to the University of Miami, where he was president of Alpha Kappa Psi Business Fraternity, a member of ODK, the highest national leadership and scholastic fraternity, and graduated in 1970 with a BBA. He did continuing education through Harvard, but like the Beach Boys song, Erik loved and was true to his high school for the rest of his life. He married his high school sweetheart, Betsy, at the Chapel of St. Andrew on May 29, 1971, and both of their sons, Leif Erik and Johan Anders, were also graduates. He served on the Board of Trustees for 12 years, including as chairman. Under his leadership, St. Andrew's School began a new era, calling Reverend George Andrew as the new headmaster, implementing a long-range master plan, and successfully launching its first capital campaign. Erik's personal donations were responsible for the construction of St. Andrew's Lower School, but true to his quiet modesty, Erik would not permit the facilities to be named in his honor. Erik was a consummate businessman who loved his work with absolute passion. He joined his father, Hans, at Hvide Marine in 1970 and went on to become its president in 1981, CEO in 1991, and chairman in 1994. Under Erik's leadership, the company grew from a small family tugboat operation into a global shipping company with offshore and harbor tugs, offshore supply vessels, and chemical tankers. He led the company in an initial public offering in 1996, raising $1.5 billion in capital and growing the company from 23 vessels into one of the world's leading providers of global marine support services, with a fleet of 273 ships, 2,500 employees, operations in 20 countries around the world, and revenues of $400 million. Hailed by Maritime Executive as a unquestionably innovative, undoubtedly brilliant leader in the maritime industry, Erik invented the revolutionary Katug tanker and the SDM tugboat, for which he holds 2 patents in vessel design. His professional achievements include induction into the International Maritime Hall of Fame, Master Entrepreneur of the Year by Ernst & Young, International Executive of the Year by the Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce, Congressional Appointee to the U.S. Coast Guard, Council Member of the American Bureau of Shipping, and board member of various industry, corporate, and bank boards. Erik also loved to serve his local and religious communities, having served for various parishes in South Florida, as well as having lobbied the state of Florida to protect the natural tree corridor along A1A and Gulfstream, and was made mayor for the day. He was a member of the Gulfstream B&T, Lauderdale Yacht Club, RPY and CC, Country Club of Florida, and Cat K Yacht Club, where he spent many years at his home manor house. Erik is and always will be a giant among men, but his greatest accomplishments were not the ones that made the papers, but rather the quiet ones he shared with friends and family. This is what his brothers then personally write. For us, you were a truly special husband, father, and friend, and shining example of how we should all lead our lives. We want to say thank you. Thank you for the many sacrifices you made. You taught us to put others first, and that family is more important than anything. Thank you for teaching us the art of storytelling. You always had us hanging at your every word, and we can only hope to be as captivating as you. Thank you for all the incredible adventures. Together we learned to appreciate the journey and the world around us. Thank you for teaching us the value of dedication and hard work. The standard you set is golden. Thank you for your determination and perseverance. You have the heart of a lion, and we can only strive to be as brave as you. Thank you for teaching us to truly listen. You are always 110% in the moment, and there is nothing more powerful than to hear what others have to say. Thank you for your unflappable calmness in the face of adversity. You are the original keep calm and carry on. Thank you for showing us that anything is possible if you put your mind to it. There is nothing more satisfying than defying the odds and the critics. Thank you for your kindness. You always had time for anyone and everyone. Thank you for teaching us faith, forgiveness, and unconditional love. You are the perfect example of Christ's teaching. You will be greatly missed and eternally loved. I'm not sure if it were his last words today, but some of his last words that he spoke to all of us today were this: I have met presidents, I have met leaders of state, but nothing compares to how forward I look to meeting Jesus. Erik had had an after-death experience in his post-polio sickness. He knew where he was going. And so God's perfect love helped to cast out all unnecessary fear for him. So thank you, Erik, for your example of faith, your example of being such an incredible steward of all the gifts that God gave to you. Eternal rest grant unto him, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon him.